Thank you so much for joining us today. It is a huge pleasure. I have a few questions for you, but first, could you tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And yes, what am I working on now? Well, together with many other people, because I never do anything on my own, I always do it with big teams of people. We're now working on basically the implementation of the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement was a huge milestone for those of us working on climate change, but you will understand that if the Paris Agreement remains a wonderful piece of paper that everybody agreed to and nothing else, then it has no value. So we are now working on making sure that the milestones that are set in the Paris Agreement actually will be met by the real economy.
That's so needed and amazing work. So Ms. Figueres, what does Earth Overshoot Day mean to you in your work that you're doing now?
Well, interestingly enough, if you think systemically, you can certainly understand that Earth Overshoot Day is meant to be an annual measurement of how much we extract from nature versus how much nature can actually replenish. And this year on August 1st, we hit that deadline in which we will have extracted already as much or more than the Earth can replenish, and the rest of the year is already into the red. But when you think about it, not just annually, but actually as the history of mankind, we're in the same situation. We are just 2 minutes from reaching the point where we will have put up in the atmosphere so many tons of carbon dioxide that it is going to be exceedingly difficult to stabilize the climate over the next few decades. So just like we have Earth Overshoot Day per year, we also have Earth Overshoot Day for the evolution of mankind. And that milestone is 2020. So if we're not able to bend the curve of greenhouse gas emissions by 2020, we will have substantially overshot how much we can put into the atmosphere versus how much we can take out of the atmosphere for a safe climate that is going to protect, in particular, the most vulnerable populations of the world.
I feel like with all of that, there are very few, you were one of the few world leaders who is saying that with the same amount of urgency. And how do you maintain your optimism in face of all of these obstacles that I think is certainly in the United States, but around the world, maybe coming up against seeing that progress?
Well, yeah, I don't think that optimism is the result of anything. I think it is the start of everything. And I think my sense of optimism is not irresponsible about naive optimism of not understanding all of the setbacks that we have, the challenges. It is a decision that I have taken. It is a decision that says that I do not engage, and in fact, most people do not engage successfully with any challenge unless we engage with optimism, unless we know that we can be able to address the challenges that are set before us every day, every week, every month, every year. So it's a decision. My optimism is not because we're doing really well. My optimism is precisely because we have to address this. So it is, I have decided to be optimistic because I don't know how many challenges you know, but I don't know of any challenges that humankind has ever been successful at achieving that started with pessimism. Everything that we have done and have been successful at, we started with optimism, and the same can be argued for climate change.
So then from your vantage point, what do you see as an exciting initiative to move the date?
Well, there are so many, actually. There are just countless examples of the dissemination of renewable energy across the world, but in particular, I'm very excited about this dissemination of renewable energy in developing countries, not only because I come from a developing country, but because we know that that is the region in which there's going to be explosive growth and demand of energy just to be able to provide economic fundament and basis to growing population that is both growing, but also beginning to come up out of poverty into middle classes, and that is what is feeding the demand of energy. So I'm very, very excited about all of the different examples and renewable energy investments that are being made in country after country, and the fact that in particular solar is now competitive in its cost, even against coal, even against gas. It is just really a completely different scenario that we have now in 2018 than where we were, let's say, in 2010. In the past 8 years, the price of solar has come down 80–90%, and that is why we're able to disseminate renewables across the world. So I'm very excited about that. I'm also very excited about the electrification of transportation, which is much newer than the dissemination of renewable energy, and the fact that we already know that by 2040, most, if not all, of the new vehicles that are going to go into the market will be electric is just incredibly exciting. Many of those, of course, will also be shared. And so I'm very excited about the combination of clean energy, electrification of transportation, and the shared economy. And those three mega trends are really completely revolutionizing what we think of as transportation. Is just, going to be completely transformed. And finally, I'm very excited to invite everyone here to the opening of the Museum to the Internal Combustion Engine. I'm not exactly sure where we'll build this museum and when we're going to inaugurate it, but it is going to be soon.
I love that. I will be first in line. So what is a primary issue or challenge that you would like to see progress with 1 year from now?
I think where it's really at right now, where it really is going to make a difference is in finance, because in technologies, we have the technologies available. We also have, in most developing countries, we have the policies in place. Now it's about greening finance and getting the finance sector, the banking sector, the investment sector to understand that there is now, today, more risk in investing in fossil fuels, certainly in coal, than there is in investing in renewables, that there is more risk in investing in internal combustion engine based technology than in green energy technology. So I think the real huge wave that is going to come now after the renewables and after electric transportation is now finance. And that is something that I'm very excited about.